Here I am, reporting to my lady. Here comes the full high-quality story you've been waiting for. A gentle reminder. Make sure you're connected to Wi-Fi. Now let's dive right in. I died the year I loved him the most. He had a fortune worth hundreds of millions, yet he abandoned it all without a second thought, choosing to burn to ashes alongside me. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 10 years in the past. We'd just gotten married, back to when I hated him the most. I rushed straight to his company. The moment I laid eyes on him, my voice cracked with a sob. Sir Huaishu, I am sorry. After a moment of stunned silence, his expression turned cold and resigned. Speak. What kind of torture are you going to put me through this time? I remembered that in the final explosion, Sir Huaishu never made it out alive. Always neat and immaculate, he knelt beside me and whispered, Sang Ning, don't be afraid. I'm here to stay with you. He was 38 back then, a tycoon with hundreds of millions to his name. Yet he left everything behind, to perish in the fire with me. It was a midsummer evening. The setting sun bled crimson beyond the window, and sweltering wind drifted into the room. I jolted awake from the dream, sitting frozen on the bed in a daze. The wall clock ticked softly in the corner, and the desk calendar lay quiet on the table. Madam, Mr. Sher just called to say he won't be coming home tonight. Aunt Lou's calm voice drifted in from the living room. I stared down at the brand-new wedding band on my ring finger and closed my eyes slowly. I was really back 10 years ago. The raging fire of my last moments, the warm, solid embrace holding me close. It all felt vividly real. At the very end, Sir Huaishu had murmured to me, Sang Ning, don't be scared. I've waited far too long for you in this life. I'll find you much sooner in the next. Was this a dream or a reality? I pinched my thigh hard, a dull ache spreading through my skin. The blare of car horns outside snapped my muddled thoughts into clarity. After the initial shock, endless heartache and sorrow washed over me. A man-made misunderstanding had made me hate Sir Huaishu for years. His rivals had struck relentlessly to bring him down, crushing him under endless pressure. At home, I met him only with cold indifference. No wonder he rarely came back. Sir Huaishu had lost his parents young and had no other family. He ruled over a business empire, yet lived alone for most of his life. It wasn't until the misunderstanding was cleared that we had half a year of genuine happiness. I even got pregnant with our child, though I never got the chance to tell him the news. Before we met our untimely end, Madam, the flowers are here. Are you ready to leave? Aunt Lou walked in and asked. I was still lost in my chaotic thoughts. Pardon, you said you were going to visit Mr. Song today. Song Yen. The name hit me like a jolt. A thread suddenly unraveled from the tangled mess in my mind. It was this exact day. Song Yen was my childhood best friend, a gifted actor with boundless talent. Tragically, an accident left him with severe full-body burns, confining him to the hospital long-term. In my past life, I'd brought a bouquet of flowers to visit him that day, spending his birthday by his side. When I walked out of the hospital, I saw Sir Huaishu sitting in his car, cigarette burnt down to the filter, lost in thought. I had no desire to explain myself back then, not even the will to look at him. Sung Ning. Sir Huaishu spotted me, snuffed out his cigarette, and stepped out of the car, his tone laced with loneliness. Today's my birthday. I paused in my tracks, turning to stare at him coldly. So, what, Sir Huaishu? His dark eyes fixed on me, silent and unblinking. Today's Song Yan's birthday too, I said sharply. You stopped at nothing to marry me, ruined his face, destroyed his career. What else do you want from me? Sir Huaishu parted his lips, his words futile. It was just an accident. If you hadn't invited him that day, he wouldn't be stuck in a hospital bed now. How am I supposed to believe it was an accident? Sir Huaishu fell silent, finally whispering only one word. I'm sorry. From that day on, our relationship plummeted into ruin, dragging us into a long, bitter Cold War. It was only much later that I learned that so-called accident, one even sure Huaishu had believed was genuine, was nothing more than a scheme, hatched by others to drive us apart. Your things are already in the car, madam. We should go soon, or traffic will get worse. Aunt Lu called me back to reality. The sun hung low outside the window, the light dimming to dusk. I snapped out of my daze, hurriedly slipped on my coat, and got into the car. A sudden realization washed over me. This was 10 years ago. Everything could still be fixed. The driver merged into the stream of traffic. The road to the hospital is jammed up. Shall I call Mr. Song to ask him to wait? Skip the hospital, I said, staring at the shifting traffic lights outside. Drive to the company instead. I barely remembered anything about Shi Huaishu's workplace. When I was young, I'd hated him too much to ever visit. Later, when I fell in love with him, his enemies lurked everywhere, danger shadowing his every step. I never dared to go near him. Now I stood among the towering office buildings, lost and bewildered. Which one housed his company? Passers-by glanced at me curiously. A woman dressed elegantly, made up perfectly, holding a huge bouquet of flowers, looking for all the world like someone about to confess her love. Flustered, I pulled out my phone and dialed Shi Huaishu's number, saved under his full name, cold and distant, not even labeled as my emergency contact. I pressed the call button. I'd expected to wait forever, but he answered after just 2 rings. His cool, aloof voice came through the receiver. What is it? Hearing his voice again, my eyes burned instantly, my tone trembling with suppressed tears. Shi Huaishu, where's your office? I can't find it. Strangers stared even more strangely now, watching a woman standing on the sidewalk, crying because she couldn't find her husband's office. It sounded like Shi Huaishu was in the middle of a meeting. He paused briefly. We'll adjourn for now. Then he spoke to me again. Stand on the sidewalk. I'll come down. Minutes later, Shi Huaishu walked out of the office tower, his tall frame cut through the neon glow, suited and poised, noble and reserved. I glanced at my reflection. Eyeliner smudged down my cheeks from tears, looking like the tragic lead in an orphanage drama.
Great.
I'd ruined my makeup completely. Why are you here? His tone was flat, almost icy. I turned around to face him. The handsome man stared at me coldly, his pupils reflecting my tear-streaked, messy face, his expression stiffening slightly. No matter when, Shi Huaishu was always impeccable, like a flower blooming alone on a cliff, pure and untarnished. I'm sorry, I mumbled, staring at my feet, too ashamed to meet his eyes. I didn't mean to disturb your work. He said nothing more than those 2 words. I knew what he was thinking, that I was supposed to be with Song Yan on his birthday, not showing up here, out of the blue. The thought jolted me. I shoved the bouquet into his arms, mumbling awkwardly, "Happy birthday." A long silence stretched between us. I stole a glance at him, only to find him staring down at the flowers, showing no trace of joy. After a long moment, he let out a bitter, mocking laugh. Sang Ning, these are the flowers he didn't want, aren't they? My heart sank at his tone. I'd been too caught up in rushing to find him after waking up. I'd overlooked every detail. These were ice blue roses. Their meaning: I give you the stars and the sea. And stars and the sea were Song Yan's favorite things.
I'm sorry, you whispered.
Thank you for the birthday gift, Shi Huaishu replied stiffly. It's getting late. Let the driver take you home. He turned to leave at once. I reached out quickly and grabbed the hem of his suit jacket. Wait. Shi Huaishu hadn't expected me to stop him. Losing his balance slightly, I stumbled forward, crashing straight into his back. My messy makeup smudged bright streaks all over his designer suit. He looked down at my hand, clutching his clothes. Silent for a long time, I stubbornly held my ground. Shi Huaishu, I'm not going home. His expression turned weary and defeated. What torture are you going to put me through this time? The words hung heavy in the air. Back then, we'd only just gotten married, caught in the middle of a bitter fight. I was 23, he 28. Our arguments were always one-sided cruelty from me. saying the harshest things I could think of. Even the gifts I gave him on holidays were always chosen to cut straight to his heart. I was like the boy who cried wolf. After too many false alarms, he'd stopped believing me entirely. In my past life, once the misunderstanding lifted, I'd been bold and straightforward, throwing myself into his arms to make up. Cold and aloof as he seemed, he was surprisingly easy to soothe. But that trick might not work now. Sure, Huaishu had endured too much pain and grievance, and I wanted to make amends properly. After thinking it over, I said softly, "Let me treat you to dinner." Sure, Huaishu lowered his gaze, cold and distant. "No need. I still have work tonight." "Then let's order takeout." I followed closely behind him shamelessly. "I'll get you longevity noodles for your birthday." Sure, Huaishu didn't reply, not even sparing me a glance. He still held the bouquet tightly in his hand. We passed a trash bin, and I thought he'd toss it away without hesitation, but he didn't. I followed him all the way into his office. The room was sparse and quiet. A cold, untouched box lunch sat on his desk. He'd planned to get by on this alone tonight. My heart ached sharply. I pulled out my phone and ordered him a bowl of longevity noodles. Clear broth, light salt, no green onions, tomatoes and milk as side dishes, plus a few vegetarian plates, all mild and non-spicy. Sure, Huaishu had always ordered heavy, spicy food just to accommodate me. It was only later I'd learned he had a weak stomach, unable to handle anything too spicy, oily, or salty. After placing the order, I sat down on the sofa, unsure of what to say next. Nothing felt right. Sure, Huaishu was unwrapping the flower bouquet, preparing to put it in a vase. The sight of those ice blue roses stung my eyes. On impulse, I stepped forward, snatched the bouquet away, and tossed it straight into the trash can. He froze, staring at the pricked drop of blood on his thumb, sighing with exhaustion. "Sang Ning, are you done throwing tantrums?" "No," I retorted, holding back my frustration. I hated how he could stay so calm and unyielding. "You don't like these. I'll buy you new ones." Sure, Huaishu grabbed a tissue to press against his wound, his eyes lowering softly. "Forget it." Ignoring him, I picked up the trash bag. "Wait here for me." I rushed out of the office. It was summer evening. Street vendors lined the road selling flowers. Not as high quality as boutique bouquets, but fresh all the same. I ran from stall to stall, buying up every single red rose in sight, tying them loosely with simple wrapping paper. Just then my takeout arrived. I carried the huge bouquet and the food back upstairs. The 19th floor was quieter now. Most overtime employees had left for the night. Only Sure Huaishu's office lit with a soft lamp. I walked in quietly. He stood facing the floor-to-ceiling window, his back to me, his silhouette lonely and desolate, like a stray dog abandoned by the world. The heavy bouquet and takeout knocked against the doorframe with a dull thud. Sure Huaishu's frame stiffened at once. Turning around sharply, he stared at me, almost collapsing under the load I carried. "What are you standing there for? Help me." I panted breathlessly. He looked utterly stunned to see me come back, then hurried over in an instant. He took the flowers and food in one hand, slid his other arm under my armpit, and settled me gently onto the sofa. I caught my breath, sweat beading on my forehead, yet smiled brightly. "These are for you." I bought every red rose on the street. Shock flashed across Sure Huaishu's handsome face, completely caught off guard by my sudden warmth. Could it be he only knew how to react when I was yelling at him? I watched him reach for his cold leftover lunch again, and let out a deliberate yelp. Sure Huaishu's gaze snapped to me at once, a flicker of obvious panic in his eyes that I didn't miss. I leaned back lazily on the sofa, tilting my chin up with a playful scowl. "Can't you at least eat something hot? It annoys me just watching you eat that cold boxed meal." For the next half hour, my gentle nagging filled his office. "Can you even eat properly? Look at that big piece of beef. Are you just going to ignore the vegetables? Still picky eater at your age? Did I buy this noodles just for you to stare at?" Under my constant chiding, He finished the whole bowl of hot noodles. Afraid he'd still be hungry, I'd added 2 steamed flour rolls, and even handed over the sweet osmanthus cake I'd gotten for myself. Getting lectured nonstop like this, how am I supposed to live peacefully? He muttered softly. My throat felt dry from talking so much, and suddenly a glass of water was held out to me. I looked up to find Shi Huaishu staring straight at me. Drink first. Song Yan suddenly pushed me forward. Sang Ning, choose one. I stood trapped between them, tears streaming down my face as I took a step toward Shi Huaishu. But he stepped back half a pace at once. Don't come any closer, Ning Ning, he said firmly. There's a bomb. I froze in place, not daring to move. I wasn't afraid of death itself, but choosing Shi Huaishu openly in front of Song Yan would only fuel his rage, and might set off the bomb early. Admit it, Sang Ning. You only love yourself, Song Yan sneered coldly. You're just as selfish and cold-hearted as your second uncle. He stood by, pouring fuel on the fire. Shi Huaishu retreated to the window, glanced at me once, then spoke to Song Yan. I'm truly sorry about your father. You have no right to mention my father, Song Yan snapped, instantly enraged, stepping forward aggressively. You rich heirs born with silver spoons in your mouths. Do any of you have a single sincere bone in your body? Your father violated safety regulations back then, Shi Huaishu said calmly. He wasn't wearing a safety helmet at the construction site. We paid full compensation as required. Shut up. Shi Huaishu let out a cold, mocking laugh. You're nothing but a powerless failure. I trembled all over. The world had gone mad. Every word Shi Huaishu spoke pierced straight into Song Yan's deepest pain. Was he trying to get himself killed? Song Yan pulled a lighter out of nowhere and slammed it to the ground. Flames burst to life in an instant. The sharp smell of engine oil hung thick in the air. He'd planned this all along. You ruined my life. Song Yan's eyes blazed red as he stalked toward me, his scarred face grotesque in the firelight. Why didn't you choose me? If you'd just said you couldn't bear to look at my disfigured face, I'd never have hurt myself so badly back then. A cold truth crashed over me. He'd done this all to himself. You're crazy. Am I? He laughed maniacally. How else could I use your guilt? To dig up news about Shi Huaishu. After years of hiding his true nature, Song Yan finally dropped his gentle mask, revealing his twisted, lunatic side. His laughter was harsh and grating, like a broken bellows. If you'd chosen me, none of this would have happened. This end is all your fault. Come burn in hell with me. He pulled out a remote control. Without a second thought, I spun around and threw myself into Shi Huaishu's arms, clinging to him tightly. Sung Ning. Shi Huaishu roared in alarm. The next second, boom. The sharp crash of shattering glass rang out. Everything went silent. A high-pitched ringing buzzed in my ears, pricking at my mind like a needle. I stared up at Shi Huaishu's ashen face, his lips moving as if shouting my name. I felt as if my body had been blown to pieces, numb and powerless, yet dying beside him. I felt no fear at all. Why then was I crying? The deafening silence lasted only a moment, before shouts and chaos crashed into my ears like an explosion. Suspect neutralized. Body located on the second floor of the abandoned warehouse. Detonation device secured. No further threats found. Fire spreading rapidly. Evacuate all hostages immediately. Police sirens wailed all around, red and blue lights flashing through the dusk sky. Officers led me away. I glanced back to see Song Yan lying motionless on the ground, his back turned to me. A warm hand covered my eyes gently. Cold, fresh air cleared the smoke from my nose and throat. My legs gave way, and I collapsed to my knees on the snow, my world spinning. Yuan's fiery, cursing voice sounded like the sweetest melody right then. It's the 21st century, for heaven's sake. Crackdowns on crime and gang activity have been going on for years. Who still uses bombs like some outlaw fugitive? Lock them all up, life imprisonment or death penalty. Shoot them dead and leave them unrecognizable. Secure all suspects, Leave the rest to the police, someone ordered. Go check on Sang Ning. Yuan spotted me kneeling in the snow at once, yelling loudly. Sang Ning, get up. You're pregnant. Don't lie on the cold ground. Shi Huaishu, who'd been working with police to defuse the bomb, froze completely at those words. He turned sharply, staring at me in utter shock. Before Yuan could reach me, he took off his leather jacket, stepped forward, and lifted me up into his arms without a word. I stared blankly as he carried me toward his car. Hey,
Who are you?
can't you even say hello? The car door shut, cutting off Yuan's protests. He set me down in the back seat and climbed in beside me, staring at me with a dark, stormy expression. I shrank back into the corner, suddenly nervous. Don't look at me like that.
I'm scared.
You know you could have died, he said sharply. Why did you throw yourself at me like that? Did you think this was some game of ducking for cover? A heavy silence fell. He'd never spoken to me so harshly before. Tears spilled down my cheeks instantly. The bomb was strapped to him. What if he'd pressed the trigger? His temples throbbed with suppressed rage. I closed my eyes and buried my face in his chest, pretending to faint from fright. Shi Huaishu took a deep breath, his jaw tight with frustration. Suddenly, he pulled me into a tight embrace. Only then did I feel his hands trembling.
I'm sorry.
I spoke too harshly just now, he whispered, running his fingers gently through my messy hair, softening his tone completely. I'd planned to jump out the window myself. If the sniper missed, I'd take the blast alone, so you wouldn't get hurt. Why did you run over and hold on to me like that? I've never seen you move so fast before. I didn't think about any of that, I mumbled. On TV, everyone ducks when there's a bomb. I couldn't exactly hug Song Yan, could I? Shi Huaishu fell speechless, not knowing what to say anymore. Thankfully, we'd both survived. Have your wounds been bandaged properly? I asked. Yes. I don't believe you. Let me see. He laughed helplessly. It's on my thigh. I immediately reached to tug at his pants. We're practically an old married couple now, no need to be shy. A muffled voice came through the car window. Yes, it's me. I think my friend's being domestically abused. Her husband just dragged her off without a word. Do you still have connections at the Women's Federation? She pulled the car door open suddenly, bright light flooding inside. I was kneeling over Shi Huaishu's lap, my hands halfway undoing his belt. Yuan locked eyes with us for 3 long seconds, then silently closed the door again. Actually, do you handle animal abuse cases too? Forget the Women's Federation. I'll call the Animal Protection Association instead. When Shi Huaishu and I held our second wedding ceremony, Yuan sat at the main guest table. She'd barely touched any food, and when we went over to toast her, Shi Huaishu smiled gently. I've heard Ningning talk about you often. She once said if she ended up marrying me a second time, something terrible would happen. Her probing gaze landed on me, and I remembered my bold joke from back then. If I remarry him, I'll stand on my head and eat dirt. She looked at me, I looked at her. We fell into an awkward silence. I was just talking casually. I laughed awkwardly. I never knew you had such a good memory, Shi Huaishu. Yuan raised her glass with a grin. Let bygones be bygones. Cheers to a lifetime of happiness for you too. Thank you, Shi Huaishu replied softly. After the toast, I walked beside him grumbling quietly. Why did you have to bring that up? He smiled down at me. I was just curious. Curious about what? I hesitated for a second, then broke into a mischievous grin. I leaned up to his ear and whispered secretly. A bright, amused smile spread across Shi Huaishu's face as he listened. I laughed until my sides hurt. Imagine if she actually does it and drags me to join her too. Have you no sense of dignity left, Mr. Shi? Laughter echoed through the entire banquet hall. Shi Huaishu just looked down at me, his eyes soft enough to drown in affection. After the wedding, guests were free to stay and relax at the seaside resort for the evening. I changed out of my wedding dress into loose casual clothes, pulled on a frayed sun hat, and let Shi Huaishu hold my hand as I skipped along the beach. You always promised you'd take me to the seaside with me. We never got to come before. Before, he asked curiously. The 38-year-old you. Shi Huaishu frowned slightly. Am I old at 38? Not at all, I said dreamily. The 38-year-old you was still incredibly handsome. Just quieter, harder to fluster. 38-year-old Shi Huaishu carried a calm maturity, irresistibly charming in every way. Shi Huaishu fell deep in thought, distracted and quiet for the rest of our walk. That night, I just walked into our bedroom. When I was pulled firmly into his hold from behind, his warm chest pressed against my back, the door clicking shut and locking behind us. Shi Huaishu's cool voice was laced with quiet possessiveness. That older version of me, does he know how to love you better than I do? I froze, finally realizing why he'd been off all day. He was jealous. I burst out laughing. Hey. He gripped my jaw gently, turning me to face the mirror, his eyes dark and alluring. He can't make you feel the way I can. Don't talk like that, I protested. You're defending him now? His tone was thick with jealousy. No, I win playfully. Are you going to hold this against your future self for the next 10 years just to prove you're better? Shi Huaishu looked at me seriously. Technically, yes. Why do I have to be the one stuck suffering while you two compete? He ignored my complaint, staring at our reflections in the mirror. I want that older me to see exactly what he's missing. I buried my face in my hands in embarrassment. Stop it, Shi Huaishu. He leaned down, his voice low and undeniable against my ear. Ningning, you're mine and only mine. That night was easily the sweetest, most tender night of my life. I had to soothe his petty jealousy over his future self, while he kept needing constant reassurance that his 38-year-old self was still just as loved. Late into the night, moonlight filtered through the sheer curtains, falling softly across his sleeping profile. I traced the line of his cheek gently, my heart warm and full. I'd spent countless moments with 38-year-old Shi Huaishu, wishing we'd found each other sooner. 10 long years we'd wasted, living as bitter strangers to each other. Deep down, I'd already fallen for him long before I'd admitted it to myself. That man-made misunderstanding had kept me hating him for a decade. The so-called accident that hurt Song Yan had become a thorn stuck deep in my heart. Every time my hidden feelings stirred, the thorn pricked sharp and deep, reminding me I'd always blamed Shi Huaishu for everything. Once the misunderstanding lifted, all my suppressed love burst free at once, giving us those short, blissful months together. I'd loved him far longer than I'd ever admitted. Ningning, why are you awake? Shi Huaishu's voice was thick with sleep. I cupped his face softly, leaned in, and pressed a light, gentle kiss to his lips. I love you. Beneath my palm, I felt his heart race wildly. This man really was always so easy to fluster. I love you too, he murmured, capturing my retreating lips in an instant, kissing me deeper with sudden passion. I gasped, caught off guard by his warmth. What's gotten into you all of a sudden? I just had a dream, he whispered. A dream? Shi Huaishu opened his eyes, his gaze holding stormy, unspoken emotion. I dreamed of our past life. I held my breath in shock. He brushed the messy hair from my face, looking at me like I was his most precious treasure. Song Ning, I'm so grateful. We've been given a second chance to do this right. The night was still young, moonlight soft and shy, maple leaves swaying gently in the breeze. Wind chimes tinkled softly by the window, echoing the sound of our racing hearts. I melted into his warm embrace like a calm sea, whispering softly under the moonlight. When did you first fall in love with me? Right after we got married. The moon seemed to answer for him.
No.
I've loved you for far, far longer than that.